Welcome to the Creation Grounds podcast, where we break down the success, habits, and the life of people in creative fields, discover how they've gotten to where they are, what they aspire to be, and how you can live your dreams too. Let's get to the show. So glad to welcome our guest, Pedro De Leon, to this episode of the Creation Grounds. Pedro, what's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
We're just going to dive right in and ask you a little bit about your story and
Cool.
when and why you moved from Puerto Rico to mainland U.S. and New York.
So that was about, it's going to be 4 years in January. 4 years ago, I was in my last semester of college, and I majored in English, and my department had a film studies minor, and I took all my electives there, and one of the classes, the final project was to shoot a movie for those guys interested in, doing grad school and directing or something like that. So they needed actors, and that wasn't in my plans. I was actually going to law school at the time, and in the span of maybe 2 weeks, I appeared in one of my friend's movies, and I also was doing an early acceptance, like summer camp or something like that before you actually start law school. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that thing, we did a mock trial. And I don't know if it was because I was shooting my friend's movie and I got really into what we were doing at the court, because it had everything. It had a jury, and it had the defense attorneys and the prosecution and everything like that. So they gave us a real case to mock it. And I did my closing statement, and I didn't bring my papers with me because I read it all so many times. I knew it by heart. So I just put on a performance without actually knowing what I was doing. And at the end of it, everybody stood up and started clapping, like if it was like some sort of theater. Mm-hmm. And after we finished, the moderator for the camp asked me if I did acting on the side of if I'd ever acted before, and I told him no. He said, "Well, you should really consider it." So I had a few beers with my close friends short days after that, and I told them about it, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't know what you're going to law school for."
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like the first, that first taste of what it could be.
When you got the bug. So yeah. I'm curious, so I know Puerto Rico, there's English speakers, but is English your first language, or did you go study English and film because you wanted to learn English?
Yeah, it's not. Spanish is the main language. Most mm-hmm. people speak both. They're not mm-hmm. super fluent, like my mom and close family members are not like super fluent in English, but you do dabble with both, because it's most like a melting pot of the two worlds. But I did English because I figured if I wanted to go to law school, first I wanted to be really well read and well spoken, and I had a better chance of being employed after I finished if I dominated the language that well, because we have two courts in Puerto Rico. We have the national courts, which is in Spanish, and then we have the federal courts. That's everything federal as far as the U.S. is concerned. So that my plan was to try to get employed by the federal court.
Got it. Yeah. And what are you most proud about your roots and your heritage as far as Puerto Rico is concerned?
Well, I just got back yesterday from 10 crazy days in that island, and every time I go back, I
That sounds like a story. That sounds like some stories right there, man.
Dude, man, it's just we as Puerto Ricans we find any excuse to party and drink, and Christmas time is like our Olympics.
Okay. So you're a bit hungover right now.
It's intense. No. The hungover. I wouldn't say hungover, but I would definitely say a little, worn
Parted out.
Yeah, worn
Gotcha.
out. I feel at home here in New York again. Like I was telling my wife, like I love coming home, but I'm ready to go home.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think to answer your question, what I feel most proud and happy about what I am and where I come from is just the warmth.
Hmm.
It's something. It's a quality you can't really teach. It's something you're born with. We take everyone in as our own, and we have. I think we have a very easy mentality of just being accessible. And I think for acting, it helps me a lot because when you're in a scene with someone, you need to feel comfortable, and when you want to make them comfortable with you. So that openness definitely comes from my roots.
For sure. And you write as well as act. So does that also
Uh,
help you? Does that complement?
uh, well, I dabble in writing right now. I don't actually pursue anything with my writing. I do it more as a therapy than anything else. Because imagine if you're just auditioning out there, you're not
Got it.
getting anything. You need something to keep you alive and keep you alive creatively. And I think writing is more of that than anything else. It's just a therapy of keeping my imagination flowing. You know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could talk to you about that for a while actually because I think it's important because as an actor, I mean, if you're just sitting there waiting for a job, not doing anything else, then your creativity diminishes. Then you're not living a full human experience. So I definitely agree with you on that. Different people find different ways. So for you, it's writing. That's really cool. I've actually read some of your stuff before, and it's pretty dope. So,
Yeah,
um,
thanks, man. People that want to employ actors, they want to employ people who are creative, and they love what they're doing. So when you fall into that trap of needing to have something and not really enjoying what you're doing, it's a miserable thing. I think my first 3 years in New York, I fell into it, and now writing and sharing my writing, it's slowly taken me out of it for the better. Yeah.
yeah, man. So, do you write roles that you want to play, or what kind of roles are you drawn to? Is there anything being written now that you particularly like? Any shows, either theater,
Well,
TV, film?
yeah, but writing wise, I'm drawn to actually strong female leads. It's my like forte. It's what I actually enjoy watching in movies and TV shows, and what I actually enjoy writing. I think I might be some kind of a feminist writer
Okay.
at some sort. But it's just super interesting to me and because of just how we live it. It's super interesting for me to see women in power, and I'm super interested about that. As far as the roles I go for, well, I go for anything. I'm at a
Okay.
point of my
You're an
career
actor.
that yeah, I'm at a point of my career that you throw a chicken suit at me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, let's do it. this is
Okay. So you're adventurous.
yeah, I'm up for anything right now, definitely. In the future, I hope I can, I can definitely see myself doing roles that I can relate to, because I think you good actors and in a professional level that can choose their roles do it so with something they think they have something to offer, and that comes from a place of familiarity. So uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, speaking of like writing as therapy or just on a very human level, have you ever personally felt lonely or like an outsider,
Oh,
especially coming? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, all the time. Especially as soon as I came here, I went to the conservatory route, so I didn't knew anyone, and nobody knew me. Though I was going to school with kids from places like Wyoming and Minnesota who never met a Puerto Rican before, and yeah, it was a cultural shock, especially because of the way I'm used to being with even with strangers. That openness, that curiosity, and all that it brings into my personality. Not everyone is as accepting of it as other people are.
For sure.
So yeah, I had lonely times, but in those cases, I always reminded myself of you can't help but be yourself. in every situation and just hope for the best.
Okay, and how do you define being an outsider, or what's your process for finding your place in the world? Because you've come from Puerto Rico, you come to mainland U.S., and you're hanging out with Wyoming people, people that might not necessarily understand who you are or your culture. So how do you define being an outsider, and what's your process for finding your place
I
in the world?
I think my defense mechanism has always been integration. I try to integrate um, everybody into who I am, and if it's for the best, then good. If they don't like it, then I can't do much about that. I got married 3 years ago with someone I met in that school, and if difference comes to mind, she is European and from Poland, and there's nothing
Mhm.
more different than Poland to Puerto Rico. But we made it work because
Right?
of that integration of that
She was
exposure of
like,
this is
she
where
was
I
like
come
this.
from and this is why we're happy.
She was like, this Puerto Rican, he parties so hard. I like it.
So
People. I'm just kidding. I'm
no,
just kidding with you.
it's like it's not just the party. It's just we're
Yeah.
loud. We fry out all our food. We have salsa going at 7 a.m.
Right. Right.
It's it's definitely it's a different. It probably has something to do with the heat. Puerto Rico is just
Right.
so hot.
Right. Right.
you
Right.
you get going from really early in the morning and it doesn't go away until you go to sleep. So maybe it's something with the heat.
Did you guys kind of gel on the connection of both being from foreign places? Is that how you
Hmm.
guys kind of connected? Okay.
Definitely, it was a melting pot, and we couldn't be happier about it.
Hmm.
She's been to my home. I've been to her home, and I've always been culturally curious. So it's a dream come true that you actually fall in love with someone so different from you. And for an actor, it just enriches you a a non-ending amount of material. I could
Yeah.
write books. I could write books and books on how a Puerto Rican married a Pole.
Okay. It's definitely interesting. It's so that's definitely, you kind of stand out in that way as a couple. I mean, so
Yeah, no,
would you rather fit
definitely.
in or stand out?
I de- would definitely stand out, especially when I went to Poland, and they saw us walking in down the street. It's it's not something frowned upon, but it's definitely not something people are used to, especially a tanned guy wearing beach attire in the streets of Poland. It looked like something that came out of Cool Runnings. So it was people were definitely curious. But yeah, like I said, that's the beauty of our relationship. We're so come from completely different worlds.
And for you as an individual, would you personally rather fit in or stand out? And what's the difference between those two for you?
Well, I think like anyone else, we all want to fit in at some level. We want some acceptance with everyone we encounter, but I think inevitably, uh, and not just because it's my case, I think everyone's case is to stand out because we're all individuals, and
Hmm.
you can't find anyone that's the exact same copy of you in the world, as hard as you look. So I think there's definitely a yearning for acceptance as humans are, but there's an inevitability to stand out.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've been doing pretty well, and so far as acting goes. So tell us about the story behind your latest booking on Shades of Blue.
Uh, Dude, I really, I swear to God, I called my manager and I said, like, I blew it. I thought I blew the audition because the guy was giving me instructions and following it. It didn't feel like uh, there was any animosity. And then she called me the next day and she's like, well, you booked it. I was really surprised because I thought I'd done awful. It was definitely a great experience. It's my first big set that I've ever worked on, having around 40, 50 people behind the camera. It's it was not natural for me having your own trailer, having people pampering you around for a day. The worst thing about it was that next day I was bartending at my job.
Right. Yep. Yep.
I was
Yeah.
well, if I could do this like 4 or 5 times a week, maybe I can live with it. I'll be okay with that. But it was
Hmm.
definitely cool. It definitely opened my eyes to this can definitely happen on a regular basis someday. And I left that sad. As small, like my part was super small. It was like 3 lines in one scene. But I left that day thinking, I, you know, this is possible. If I keep if I keep beating in this rock, it will definitely crack one day.
For
So I
sure.
just left hungry and more hungry than I'd ever been to keep hustling and bustling around the city.
What was your experience like actually being on the show? Because I think you worked with one of the series regulars, right?
Oh yeah, I worked with two
Or
of them. I worked with my scene was with Vincent Loresca and Dayo Okaniyi.
mhm.
They were super cool guys. Like we joked around while we were being mic'd, and in between takes, we would talk about boxing. We had a dispute about who would win, Conor McGregor or Mayweather. Just guy stuff. We were just hanging out. They were really generous, even when the camera wasn't actually pointing at them. They kept doing the scene like like generous actors are supposed to do.
Mhm.
And after we wrapped up, parted ways, they shook my hand, thanked me, and told me I did a good job. It was everything I expected from gentlemen in the business. So it left a really good taste in my mouth.
That's great, man.
You know?
How do you reward yourself after success like that?
uh, like I told you, I just got really hungry.
Okay.
I, I
Yeah.
just, I just, if the acting bug had bit me, now it bit me harder, or a bigger bug bit me. It's like I didn't want to reward myself because I didn't actually feel that I accomplished
Okay.
anything, and the complete opposite actually. I thought that now it's the time to really use this momentum and get something else. It's like a game for me. It's like fishing. You throw your rod and sometimes they bite and you catch something, and sometimes you just need to keep throwing your rod. So it just motivated me.
I respect that, man. So, you spoke a little bit about loneliness before, and there might be some people that have come from a foreign place, whether it be Puerto Rico or somewhere that is not familiar to them. What would you say to anybody feeling lonely or like they don't fit in anywhere or they don't have any place in the world? What would you say to encourage them to keep going or how to deal with their loneliness if they are feeling
Well,
lonely or mhm.
on a personal level, I think loneliness is overrated, actually. And for the work of a writer or an actor, being alone provides you with the space to think and the space to create. I don't know if it's because, me personally, I prefer it that way. Other people just have this need of being surrounded by people all the time. I definitely enjoy my loneliness. It's the time that I can actually immerse myself in any brainstorms or anything I'm coming up with in my mind or anything I'm working on. But if the case is that you do need to be surrounded by people, then do it. Find a place, find a class. Uh, Being friendly it's not something that is really hard to do, and people reward friendships in any kind of environment. In my personal experience, people reward friendship. What I mean is, if you're nice, something great is going to come out of it. So you always have to be nice, regardless of
Okay.
what you're going with. Yeah.
So for somebody who kind of just a cultural level where they don't kind of feel like they fit in or they probably don't speak the language, what would you say to encourage them to keep going or to not give up?
Well, That's the great thing about New York. It's the petri dish of humanity.
For sure.
There's no way you can come here from any place in the world and not find a community.
Got it.
You take the train downtown, you're in Chinatown. You take it to Spanish Harlem, and everybody speaks Spanish. You know, it's that the beauty of New York, the diversity, is the strongest point of the city. So, it's only up to you actually. If you need to find, if you have that yearning for community, New York is definitely the place to find it because it's out there for you to take.
And how can people reach you when's your episode?
Well, I think the episodes. The Shades of Blue episode is number 12, and it should. They told me it should come out around January, late January, February. So keep your eyes peeled because I'll be there in the total of 2 seconds or 3. I really don't know how long, but yeah. As far as reaching out, I'm not big on social media yet. I don't think I've reached a point in my career that can actually help me with the job. So it's Facebook for now and Instagram.
Do you have any other projects going on right now, either that you're writing or acting in or producing?
Well, yeah. I've been working on this web series with this great guy since almost 2 years ago. His name is Randy Wilkins. He works constantly with Spike Lee and ESPN. He just released a 30 by 30 short. This is his baby, his project, and we've been working on it for the past 2 years. It's completely wrapped. We did some ADR and post production on it. So anytime now it's going to come out either on to download or just free for the public. It's a web series, and it's going to be really cool. It's definitely the most immersive thing I've done so far. So I'm really excited for everyone to see it.
Cool.
It's called Docket 32357, and it's the second season. It's season 2.
And people could find that on YouTube, or is it going to be on Vimeo?
Yeah. Well, right now they're in the process of marketing it and having it, trying to sell it. But for sure it's going to be on Vimeo. Season 1 is on Vimeo right now, and in the series webpage, it's docket, like a law docket,
Mm-hmm.
and 32357. You can definitely find it online.
Dope, man. Mr. Leon, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Pleasure
Best
with
of
you,
luck
bro.
with that. Yeah, man. We'll hang out pretty soon, man. You live in the same. You live in the hood, so
Yeah.
let's hang out, man.
We'll see each other for
You know?
sure. For sure.
All right, man.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for your time.
All right, no
on the
problem.
call. All right, bro.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. That's it for this episode of The Creation Grounds. I'm your host, Aaron Lloyd. Be sure to check out our Instagram for future and previous guest info, and check out our YouTube channel in the show notes below. Email us with any suggestions at thecreationgrounds@gmail.com. And if you got something out of this, I'd really appreciate if you spread the word and the love. Until next time, this is Aaron Lloyd telling you that the sky is the limit. Stay creative.